Um, the online seminars are presented by the Institute for Ibn Arabi Studies at the Kerim Foundation, the Institute for Sufi Studies at Üsküdar University, in collaboration with the Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi Society. Just a little information, Kerim Foundation and Turkish Women Cultural Associations, they are NGOs focusing on Sufi studies. We try to establish academical networks and initiations of academic partnerships with the vision of one of the greatest 20th century Sufis of Istanbul called Kenan Rifai. The Institute for Sufi Studies at Üsküdar University is one of those initiations, actually. And as you know, the Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi Society is an NGO to promote a greater understanding of the work of the great Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi and his followers. Has members from 30 countries, and it's a very prestigious party. Now, I'm happy to present Mahmud Erol Kılıç, who is my teacher, who was my teacher actually. It would would take us less time if I had told you what he was not, but I have to tell about what he is. So I'm just gonna talk about some highlights. As of right now, he's the director general of the Research Center for Islamic History, Art, and Culture of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Not too long ago, he was the ambassador of the Republic of Turkey, Republic of Turkey to the Republic of Indonesia. And if I have to read all his qualities, it would take a long time. He's a writer, he's a professor, he's a journalist, he's a teacher, and most of all, I guess, although he's not going to confess, he's a great Sufi. And I'm just gonna thank you very much for bearing with me, and I'm gonna leave everything to Mahmud Erol Kılıç now.
Thank you very much. I would like to begin with thanking to all who afford to realize this event, starting with Ibn Arabi Society in Oxford and Kerim Foundation in Istanbul and Üsküdar University in Istanbul, and to whom are watching behind the screen. To us, I would like to say hello, salam to all who are watching and listening to us. Salam from Istanbul. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I would like to emphasize today's topic. I choose a contemporary follower of the Ibn Arabi. Why I choose this person? First of all, although Ibn Arabi is a universalist person, but his leg was stand on a tradition, which is he is coming from his background, and with the other leg he was traveling. He was like a compass example, which Mevlana and some other Sufis also using this symbol. He was traveling all over the world, all over his caravan, visiting all over the faiths and all humanity. But my leg, of course, is one of my leg is standing in my culture, which is Istanbul. I was born in Istanbul. That's why I prefer to give an example from our history. Ibn Arabi's followers all over the world. Ibn Arabi As I told you, he is a sense of universalist thinker based in Islamic tradition, but his ideas is more metaphysical and more comprehensive than what we thought, actually. What he left, his physical body also came to this land, as you may know that around 10 years he spent in on the Anatolian soil, on the Anatolian land. He entered to Anatolia and spent nearly 9 years in Malatya, then Sivas, then Konya, and he went to Damascus and he died there. During his stay in here, actually, physical visiting, and he left some sprint behind him. The second stage of the interpretation of a thinker is more important for us, for contemporary followers, because Ibn Arabi was the receiver of the, let's say, intuition, ilham. He himself was the receiver. The problem is, like all prophets were, all of them were receiver of the revelation, wahi. Then his followers, their followers who came after them, they interpret their revelation on the way which they understood. So Ibn Arabi's understanding also in front of us, it remains as a problem, actually. It is not a problematic, but a problem itself. So as much as we want to deeply to this ocean, then we can take out some pearls from this ocean. Ibn Arabi, as you know, left behind him a very important commentator of him, his nephew. He is Sadruddin al-Konevi. Through Konevi, a gate to east, it is opening. As you know, Ibn Arabi came far west from Andalusia to the Middle East, but the gate opens with the Sadruddin al-Konevi. His ideas, his insights goes to east, starting with Sadruddin al-Konevi, then Abdurrazzaq Kausha, Mayyidatin Jandi from Al-Jand, from Jand, Central Asia. Then Abdurrazzaq Kashani, Saiduddin Fergani, and it comes to Dawood al-Kayseri, who is very important figure of the Akbarian lines in the beginning of the Ottoman Empire. So starting with Dawood al-Kayseri, ending with Ahmed Avni Konuk, around 7 centuries of the Ottoman Sufi tradition survived, more or less survived up to now. Although we witness some political and bureaucratical changing, but spirit is continuing, I believe so. This continuation of the spirit is very important in the Ibn Arabi's thought and Ibn Arabi's school, because Ibn Arabi, as you know, as all you know, that Ibn Arabi himself, he says that he received a commandment from Prophet Muhammad in his lucid dream, let's say, or in a spiritual stage. Actually, it is not just a dream, a spiritual stage. The the title of the title of manuscript, actually, it was not written yet, but the title was the sources of the wisdom, which is called Fususul Hikam, was given to him by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu to him directly, as he explained at the beginning of Fususul Hikam. And he says that, and Prophet says that, took it. So he said that I take it. It is my pleasure to obey God and his messenger and the rulers among us, he says. So Ibn Arabi says that I realized that my hope to explain the book to the people just as the messenger of God defined for me, he says, and making no addition or diminution of it. Why I start with this quotation from Ibn Arabi? Because later on we saw the same spiritual lineage is continuing. For example, some of you may know that there is a third generation after Sadruddin al-Konevi. It comes Sayyidin Fergani. Sayyidin Fergani wrote a book which is called in Persian Masharik al-Darari. And in Masharik al-Darari, what is this book? Is a commentary on Ibn al-Farid poem. At the beginning of this book, he says that in Persian, he wrote this book is twice. First, he wrote in Persian, Masharik al-Darari. Then he himself translated this book with enlarged edition into Arabic. So we have two books which are based on the same approach, same knowledge, but in different style, different language. First, the original text in Persian, then he himself translated into Arabic with the enlarged version. In the Persian version, he says that, this book was registered under his name. If you go to any library, you will see this book under the title of Sa'iduddin al-Fargani. But if you read the beginning, he says that this book was a notebook of the classes which I was attending, classes of Sadruddin al-Konevi, who was explaining, he was giving the courses on Ibn al-Farid poem. He comments, who is Sadruddin al-Konevi, commented on the Ibn al-Farid's poetry, and I attended this class and I took notes from that. So, which means that this book, although it was written, registered under the name of the Sa'iduddin Fergani, this book actually originated from the mouth of Sa'iduddin al-Konevi. So this book is belonged to Konevi. But Konevi, we know historically that Konevi started his classes in Damascus, then moved to Cairo, then to Konya. So 3 different locations. He continued commentary, making commentary on the Ibn al-Farid. But when we read Konevi says that, this is very important, what he was saying, what he was confessing. When I was doing my classes on the poetry of the Ibn al-Farid, before coming to the public, coming to the audience, in front of the audience, I was meditating in a room and I was asking from the spirit of my master, who is Sheikh al-Akbar Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi, and he was explaining to me what I will tell. So when I will go there, I was explaining what I was taught by my Sheikh al-Akbar. So you see, can you follow the lineage? Can you follow the line? Goes back to, although it is written under the name of Sayyiduddin Fergani, goes back to Konevi, then to Ibn Arabi, and Ibn Arabi says that I was taken it from Prophet Muhammad, and Prophet Muhammad in Quran says that وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, so he was taken from Allah, from God. So when we see this spiritual lineage and the line, we believe that it is continued. It has been continued for centuries and centuries to from heart, pure heart to the another pure heart. So up to Ahmed Avni Konuk, who is, I'm trying to focus on, introduce to you this contemporary Akbarian commentator on Fusus al-Hikam. First of all, I would like to show you what was his spiritual background. This lineage comes from this line. So Dawud al-Kayseri also was taken from Abdurrazak al-Kashani. Kashani or Kasani, there is a different interpretation. Some say that Kasani, if it is Kasan, Kasan from Central Asia. If it is Kashan, Kashan in Iran. But the oldest copies, it says that Kasan from Central Asia, like Muhyiddin al-Jandi. So, starting with this, we have to, in front of our eyes, we have to keep in mind that still Ibn Arabi's line continuing up till now from the beginning with a spiritual masters, from masters to masters, sometimes from master to the pupil, from master to student, and continuing. Sender and receiving. There is a trait between them. There is a link between them. So who is, before introducing Ahmed Avni Konik, I would like to say a few words about Dawud al-Kayseri, or friend. Third speaker will be Mukhtar Ali. Inshallah, we'll be focusing on him. His commentary on Fusus al-Hikam, especially the Muqaddimah, the introduction to his commentary, Dawud al-Kayseri's commentary, was considered by many a good introduction, prolegomena to the Akbarian thought. Even some manuscripts we witnessed, we saw separated, they have taken out from the large volume and considered as a separate book, this introduction. Actually, it is not a separate book, it is an introduction of Fusus al-Hikam. So Dawud al-Kayseri, although he was not a classical Sufi Khanikahi, Darwish Khanikahi, which means a Sufi residing inside a tekya, Khanikah, Dargah, or Ribat, or any Sufi lodges. He is a bureaucrat, and he is a, let's say, madrasa teacher. So with him, Akbarian thought amalgamate into a madrasa system, which is very important. Madrasa system, which means madrasa is where the religious language, religious terminology, religious sciences were being taught to students, but with the amalgamation of the Akbarian thought very important. Can you imagine Fusus al-Hikam was being taught in the madrasa system, in the religious seminary in a sense. So the students at the time were Taliban. Can you imagine Taliban means who are making talab, demanders, students. Just make a comparison between 700 years ago's Taliban and today's Taliban. So the curriculum and mindset was completely changed. They take out Sufism, take out Sufi sciences or esoteric sciences or Ibn Arabi's thought out of the curriculum of the madrasa system, then very dry and very narrow-minded students was grow up. So I cannot accuse of these young generations. The system, I have to focus on the curriculum system and the philosophy behind the madrasa. That's why Davud al-Kayseri very important. He was the first commander of Fusus al-Hikam in the land of Anatolia, in the land which we were living now. So starting with Davud al-Kayseri, then it comes another person, another important person between Davud al-Kayseri and Ahmed Avni Konuk, very famous person who is whose name is Abdullah al-Bosnevi, Abdullahi Bosnevi, from Bosnia originally, and he studied in Cairo, in Istanbul, and he passed away. He died in Konya. He resides in Konya. He wrote a commentary on Fusus al-Hikam twice. First, he wrote it in Turkish, in Ottoman Turkish. Then he made it again slightly different, not too much difference. We can say that translate into Arabic, but with some corrections or some additions actually. And he wrote commentary on Fusus al-Hikam in Ottoman Turkish, then Arabic. Both of them, it is not published as with a critical edition. Arabic text still remains in manuscript, but the Ottoman Turkish were being printed in Bulak, and the late Bülent Rauf, rahimahullah, translated into English this book with the small mistakes of attributing his name from Bosnevi to Bursevi. The Bursevi's commentary actually belongs to Bosnevi. Bosnevi in Arabic script is very similar. So it doesn't matter who wrote it, but very important commentary. Just for your information, for the audience presence here, I would like to inform that I myself edited the Arabic text of Bosnevi, Arabic commentary on Fusus al-Hikam. I already finished it. And with one of my friends who edited the Ottoman text, and she is ending, she is coming to end to finalize his corrections. When she finish, we are waiting for her, then we will publish it face to face, page by page, Arabic commentary with the Ottoman commentary side by side. So it will be a good edition, inshallah, maybe 4 or 5 volumes altogether. Then we can compare, we can read Ottoman text with Arabic text altogether. Both of them was written by himself, by Abdullahi Bosnevi. So another important person from the ancestors, spiritual ancestors of the Ahmed Avni Konuk, was very famous Mevlevi Sheikh Ismail Rusuhi Dede, Ismail Ankaravi, who wrote a commentary on Mesnevi Rumi, Mesnevi Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi, with the Akbarian understanding, with the Ibn Arabi's terminology. So it was published in Ottoman language, this book, and never rendered into Latin, and translated into Persian with Khanum Setterzadeh. She translated from Ottoman Turkish directly to Persian and published in Iran nearly 20 years ago, still out of print now. It needs again to print, and never translated into any Western languages. Why was the important this person for Ahmed Avni Konuk? The Ankaravi Dede was important because he was the first person says that we suck two milk from two mother, Ibn Arabi and Mevlana. So he confessed that we combine those founding fathers, two founding fathers of the Ottoman spirituality, one side from Ibn Arabi, the other one Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi, and make it combine in one spiritual source. After him, this line continued up to Ahmed Avni Konuk. So now we can enter Ahmed Avni Konuk and say something about him. Ahmed Avni Konuk was born actually, well, the Abdullahi Bosnevi's for whom interested in Abdullahi Bosnevi's commentary, his name is Tecelliyat Arais Nusus. This book is under the title Tecelliyat Arais Nusus fi Sharh al-Fusus. Ahmed Avni Konuk was born in 1869 in Istanbul, and his father Musa Kazım Bey, and his mother is Fatıma Zehra Hanım. Ahmed Avni Bey graduated from, when he graduated from primary school, he memorized Quran, all Quran. On his life and on his works, there are a few studies has been done on him. One of them is one book published recently on his life and his thought by Savaş Bakçin. And the person, another professor, who wrote an English article nearly 20 years ago, Professor Tahir Uluç, one of our friends, who wrote on his life, on his thought, and he translated into English the first nearly 5 or 6 pages from his commentary into English. So mostly I am based on those two sources, Tahir Uluç and Savaş Bakçin's books, and I combine them. So when he was around 9 and 10 years old, first his father passed away, then very short, he lost his mother. So he became orphan, and he was transferred to Darul Shafaka in last years of Ottoman Empire, this school was school for orphans. Graduated from this school. Sultan Abdulhamid II appointed him as a postal clerk and in post office. Actually, he was working in the PTT. We call it PTT. He was a post officer. And then he entered Mektebi Hukuki Şahane. Mektebi Hukuki Şahane, Royal Faculty of Law. So he graduated from the University of Royal Faculty of Law. So he was a lawyer at the beginning, and with a degree of honor. And he served 43 years on different posts in this department and retired in 1933. Till 1933, with different stages, different ranks, around 30 years, he worked in post office, in postal service, late Ottoman Empire. He Department of Post, Department of Telegraph, and Department of Telephone, and he was very well versed in Arabic, in Persian, and in French as well. As all last Ottoman intellectuals, he was a Francophone, they were speaking very well versed in French languages. He died on 1939 and was buried in the Merkez Efendi Cemetery in Istanbul. So 1939, actually it is not very long life he lived. And for your information, when he lived and while he was working in the bureaucracy, and also the world situation was under the terrible circumstances of the First World War. So during the First World War, everyone was fighting. He was reading Fusus, he was reading Mesnevi and making a commentary. So we just have to keep in our mind or in imagination. He was a Sufi, initiated into Mevlevi order. From initiatical point of view, he was a practical Sufi, entered Mevlevi order by Esad Dede of Salonika. Esad Dede was his sheikh. Esad Dede from Salonika, nowadays in Greece. Esad Dede, a very important person who wrote commentary, and he taught Fusus al-Hikam at the same time Mesnevi together. So Ahmed Avni took this example from his master, from his sheikh. By the way, just for extra information, Mehmet Esad Dede's ancestors, grandfather, has been said that was Jewish origin and converted to the Islam. So his grandfather converted to Islam from Judaism, from Salonika, and he settled down in Istanbul, and he studied with many masters. Esad Dede taught public courses after the congregational prayer on Fridays, Juma prayers, and after afternoon prayer in the month of Ramadan at Fatih Mosque. In addition, he taught special courses at the Çayırlı Medrese after the dawn prayer on Tuesdays. In the second type of courses, he taught Rumi's Masnavi and Ibn Arabi's Fususul Hikam. In the public at the mosque, he was teaching, he was actually preaching in a general sense with a Sufi test, but more technical classes he was doing in Çayırlı Medrese in a private, with a private and elected people, in a private, let's say, classroom or atmosphere. He taught Rumi, he taught Ibn Arabi's Fususul Hikam and Mahmud Şebistari's Gülşen Raz. Ahmed Avni Efendi and some other friends, his friends, attended the classes after the dawn prayer until the death of their master. It seems Ahmed Avni acquired most of his erudition from this man, from Esad Dede, and drew upon the education in writings, his commentaries on Mesnevi and the Fusus. So I just omit more detail about Esad Dede, but Esad Dede also is important Mevlevi figure with the same line of the Ibn Arabi and Mevlana together. He was taken. Started with Rusuhi Dede, actually. Ahmed Avni Konuk, Halil Can mentions that in the year 1925, a Swedish scholar came to Istanbul, actually Karvet. He didn't mention his name, but his name is Karvet. And he made Mehmed Ali Ayni, the famous philosopher, famous professor of philosophy, died in 1945 in the Istanbul University at the time, Darul Funun. He was teaching philosophy. And this scholar, Swedish scholar, met Ayni and asked from Mehmed Ali Ayni about Ahmed Avni Konuk. And he wanted to meet him and kiss his hands. I said that I want to meet him and kiss his hands. And Ayni replied that he didn't know someone by this name. And being surprised by this reply, the Swedish scholar said, "How do you not know such a person? We read his essays published in the European journals. He's a very valuable scholar." Because Ahmed Avni's some articles were published in a very limited edition of the Robert College newsletter. He wrote some articles in Robert College newsletter, translated into some foreign languages, and they were reading from them. Ahmed Avni, beside being a Sufi, he was a musician, he was a composer, the very skilled musician and poet. He took his first music courses from Eyyubi Zekai Dede, and when he was a student at the Darüşşafaka, because at Darüşşafaka is a high school, by the way. Music teacher was Zekai Dede at the Darüşşafaka High School. So Ahmed Avni, young Ahmed Avni, was one of his students there. He was so excellent in music theory that he could produce a song depending only on the definitions found in the Advar books. You know, Kitabul Advar is very important books on the theory of the music, starting from Meraghi and Ibn Sina and Meraghi. Many scholars has written on this. And he composed, Ahmed Avni Efendi composed very lengthy makam, which is called Kâr-ı Nâtık. He himself composed this makam. He is considered one of the last representative of Itri school. Ahmed Avni Efendi was considered as one of the last representative of the Itri school in Turkish classical music. He was a poem. He was a poet. He wrote some poem. He versified some of the Arabic and Persian lines, and his works is very important. Just I would like to count some of his works because he's a prolific writer on the field of Sufism, poetry, music, exceed around 30 books. The cardinal role which took place in the field of Sufism in particular and in the Ottoman intellectualism in general is that he rendered the works of Ibn Arabi and Rumi all together. His monumental work, besides commentary on Fususul Hikam, which I will enter a little bit later, was his very important commentary on Mesnevi Sherif, Mesnevi Manevi Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi. This work is composed of 34 notebooks and preserved in the Konya Mevlana Museum. The author wrote it between the years 1929 and 1937, actually, just the Second World War started. This commentary and commentary on Fususul Hikam actually was unlucky books, unlucky in a sense that in 1923, there was a revolution in Turkey. Then it follows some cultural change in the society. In 1998, as all we know, one of the pillars of the Republican revolutions was on the change in the script from Arabic script to Latin script. When it happened, many books were written in Turkish, but with Arabic script was actually a total, the society became totally ignorant to read and to understand what it was written there. So Ahmed Avni wrote everything in Arabic script, Ottoman Turkish, but with Arabic script. So he couldn't find opportunity to publish them. He was upset, and all his written heritage was taken by some of his followers to private control, and most of them they would give it as a donation to the Museum of Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi. It was preserved there nearly 50 years. No one know them till the late Professor Selçuk Eraydın, who passed away in 1995, and his friend and my professor, my hoca, Professor Mustafa Tahralı. By the way, he is in hospital now, and we will, inshallah, pray for him. Most probably he will have a small surgery, or inshallah it will not be necessary, but on Monday they will decide, the committee will decide whether he will need operation or not. He is hospitalized for 5 days there. Today I spoke to him. So those two professors took this heritage from museum. Actually, it was, I don't want to enter, I know I witnessed how was difficult to obtain those manuscripts from the library, and alhamdulillah, at the end they took it. Then they started to work on this text, and one of the Professor Selçuk Eraydın suddenly in the traffic accident, he passed away. Then Mustafa Tahralı, he himself, alhamdulillah, could succeed to finish this commentary, huge commentary of Mesnevi. And alhamdulillah, in Latin script, it was published without changing they are changing only the script. They are not simplifying the Turkish language. The Turkish language as it is, at the beginning of 19th century, at the beginning of this century, how it was, they preserve it, the meaning, and they only change from Arabic into Latin script, and it was published. I heartily suggest anyone who can translate it from Turkish into any other languages, it would be worth to have, because he, as I told you, his sources is very tremendous sources he has been using. Many commentaries on Mesnevi already written or published in India, in Iran, in everywhere he collected. So he was choosing, he was preferring some old commentators, and he himself put his insights on it. So his Mesnevi Sharif is very important. And second book of him is Kitabu Tedbirat İlahiyye. You know, the Ibn Arabi is another famous book on Sufi politics or esoteric politics, on Tedbirat İlahiyye fi İslah Memleket el-İnsaniyye. Ahmed Avni Efendi, he translated from Arabic into Turkish with commentary on this book. And this book also, with the help of Professor Tahralı, rendered from Arabic script into Turkish, Latin script, and it was published. And the third book of him, Tercüme-i Risale-i Vahdeti Vücud, this originally written by Imdadullah Faruqi Tahanevi from India, and Persian treatise, small book. Ahmed Avni Efendi translated from Persian into Ottoman language. And I'm speeding up. Fourthly, Tabu Lama'at, as you know, Lama'at, divine flashes of Fahruddin Raki. Ahmed Avni Efendi translated from Persian into Turkish. And the fifth book of Fihi Ma Fihi of Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi's very famous, very important book, Fihi Ma Fihi. He translated from Persian and into Turkish. And Menakıb-ı Hazreti Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi, or Sipehsalar tercümesi. As you know, this is a hagiography of Rumi, and composed by Feridun bin Ahmed Sipehsalar. He translated from Persian. And he translated also Azizuddin Nesefi, İnsan-ı Kamil, Perfect Man. He translated from Persian into Turkish. under my supervision, one of my students, he finished his thesis, and he prepared this book as a thesis in Turkish languages. And he wrote a Khanende. Khanende, it is a collection of song words of Turkish classical music. Konuk wrote this work at the age of 27. When he was at 27, he composed this book, Khanende. And it was published, actually. And his small book, which is called On Hazreti Meryem ve İsa, his commentary on Mary, Virgin Mary, and Jesus Christ, and this included in commentary of him on Fusus al-Hikam. And another very important book of him, when you will hear, it will be a surprise for some. His book is Vahdet-i Vücut ve Vahdet-i Şuhud Risalesi. This work has intended to answer the criticism which the Naqshbandi Sheikh Ihsan Oğuz leveled at the Fusus in his Islam Tasavvufunda Vahdet-i Vücut. One of the late Naqshbandi scholar in Turkey, he criticized Vahdet-i Vücut, and he defended, as you know, Vahdet-i Vücut, Vahdet-i Şuhud dispute. It has been long discussions. He took the line of Vahdet-i Şuhud and made very strong critics of Vahdet-i Vücut and criticized Ibn Arabi. Ahmed Avni Konuk, he was the first critic of Vahdet-i Şuhud and Mektubat-ı İmam-ı Rabbani. He wrote a book on criticizing Imam Rabbani, Ahmed Faruk Sarhandi. Under my supervision, one of my students, he did his MA thesis on this book, and he prepared as a thesis, but it is not published yet as a thesis form now. Very important, because we know many critics, many opponents of Ibn Arabi. Around 70 people were criticized Ibn Arabi and wrote books against him, but nobody knows that. Is there any critics of Ahmed Sarhandi? Many of us doesn't know, but he was one of the critics of the Imam Rabbani's Mektubat and his interpretation of Vahdet-i Şuhud against Vahdet-i Vücut. And he said that Vahdet-i Vücut is more comprehensive than Vahdet-i Şuhud. Şuhud is vision, vision is belong to Vücut, belong to being. So being is more comprehensive than seeing, according to his commentary. So it comes to last book, his Fusus al-Hikam, Tercüme ve Şerhi. Again, he wrote this commentary and gave it after his death. It was taken to the Konya Museum, and then with the help of those professors, alhamdulillah, it was published. Just for your information, I would like to show this book is two volume. I am putting like this. It was prepared and published in Latin script, without simplification. The text, the language, it was written, it is preserved the time of the beginning of the century, and it is available in the market. Reprint and revised edition just recently published again. And what the good news is that who wants to buy it, they can buy it. Who wants to download it as a PDF, free. you can enter the yazmalar.org. You can download it from there. Of course, if you read Turkish. So, in this commentary, still the teaching of Ibn Arabi is teaching, Ibn Arabi's insights, Ibn Arabi's ideas. In the Sufi line, it has been carried by this book in today's Turkey. I myself attended 2 private classes with 2 different Sufi masters. One of them was late, rahimahullah, he passed away 4 years ago, was a Hamzavi Melami Sheikh, Melami of Hamzavi branch. I would like to say homage to his heritage, which I benefited from his insight and his commentary and his personality. Nearly 20 years I have attended his classes, who was Baha Doğramacı Efendi. With Baha Doğramacı Efendi, we read from the beginning to the end all Ahmed Avni Efendi's commentary twice. So 1,000 pages we started to read, and Baha Efendi was commenting on this. We were question and answer. It was wonderful atmosphere. So secondly, another Nakshi Melami master, Ahmed Yivlik Efendi, near in Beyazıt, in Karababa Dergah, was teaching to his followers Ahmed Avni Efendi's commentary on Füsusul Hikam. So Ahmed Avni Efendi's commentaries, especially like Davud al-Kayseri's introduction, Ahmed Avni Efendi's introduction, around 100 pages, for me is a good summary of the introduction to Ibn Arabi's ideas. Even to my students, I always advise them, tell them that if you don't have time to read all the commentary, at least you have to read first 100 pages. Like Davud al-Kayseri's commentaries in Mukaddime, this Mukaddime also, it is worth to be considered as a separate book, introduction to Ibn Arabi's system. Ibn Arabi's school pay attention too much towards the Mukaddimas. All Mukaddimas, Mukaddime of Füsusul Hikam, Mukaddime of the other books as well, very important. Because if you know how to enter, then the end, it is not important. The important thing is initiation. Initiation is starting. If you start well, if you properly starting, then Alhamdulillah, one day you will reach the end, or otherwise it doesn't matter. Being on the way, it could be wonderful as well. So I wanted to read some of, just for conclusion, I would like to, for the barakah also, what he was collecting, for example, for the maratib al-wujud, the leveling of the existence in the introduction, he collect from the different commentaries of the Füsusul Hikam all the terminologies. So, for example, for la ta'ayyun, for non-manifestation level, he said that many different equivalent terminology was being used for describing the same level, such as vücudu sırf, for example, such as I am reading, I cannot translate all of them, even you cannot translate into English, you cannot translate into Turkish or any other languages. Just read it, just try to understand. Vücudu sırf, zatı saziç, aynı kafur, mechulun nat, ezelül azal, gaybül guyub, munkati'ul işarat, munkati'ul vicdani, kıdemül kıdem, zat-ı ehadiyye, zat-ı hüviyye, zat-ı bila taaddüt, gayb-ı meçhul, mahzen-i şuun, evveli la nihaye, hesti mutlak, kenzi mahvi, ehadiyeti sırf. So it goes nearly 50 terms he chose from different sources to describe only one level. So he applied this methodology to all 7 levels, maratib-i seb'a, the 7 septenary constitution of the existence, he explains. So I have to stop somewhere.